You're good.
Okay. Clerk will call the roll, please.
Good morning, Joe Borodka, Robert Kopish, Larry Palachuk,
Here.
Patricia Stephen is excused, Dennis Warko. Thank you.
Items for discussion and possible action. Public comment. Let the record reflect we have one person here for public comment, Samantha Anderson. Take the microphone, please. For agenda items, you have 3 minutes and 2 minutes for items that are not on the agenda. State where you're from and who you represent, please.
Good morning. My name is Miss Samantha Anderson. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today, Mr. Palachuk and company. I am not here on behalf of anyone but on my own. And so I am here to talk about the jailhouse sign, the one that is right out front. It is a brown sign and it has the date, I believe, 1800 AD. That is the depiction on the sign. Everybody knows that there's a time and a place for everything that is important. And I cannot stress enough the importance of accurately depicting the time and place, especially on our law buildings. So I would encourage, by research and respect to historical significance and what is to come, to put the initials or the abbreviations rather, EST, to demonstrate that this was established in AD this time. Right now, if we observe it from the street sign or from the street line, it just looks 1800 AD, right outside of our jail, which does not depict an accurate processing time in history. And so thank you for hearing that from me.
Okay, thank you for your concern.
You're very welcome, and I will appreciate to depart on the meeting. I won't be hanging around to meet with you guys. I would appreciate to know you, but I'm going to cut out today. Would you like to have my phone number if you have any questions?
Will you take the phone number down, please, Meredith?
It is 715-339-3774. That is a landline phone.
Thank you. It's noted. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone, and I appreciate the time that you've offered here for me today, and have a great day.
Thank you. Anybody online for public comment? *6 to unmute yourself. Nothing?
No. We can note though that we do have Supervisor Hodek online. She is on there. And Paula, just so you know, your camera's on, but there's no video. So you can either turn it off or figure that out. Thanks.
Okay, is there anything for communications? Any committee member have anything? I have nothing. Let the record reflect no one is here for communications. What's your pleasure on the meeting minutes from our November 13th, 2025 meeting?
Move as presented.
Motion by Warko, second by Kopish. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Coroner report. Nick, you're going to be the coroner today?
I can't talk loud enough for that. I have no major updates from the coroner. He did, I believe, submit a report to, or a voucher to you guys. So the only thing is we are setting the coroner's wage. That is an elected position for this fall. We did do that Tuesday. So that'll be for the full board to consider.
Okay. I'll accept the coroner's report. District Attorney.
District Attorney's Office, no update on recruitment or no finalized recruitment yet for a DA through the governor's office. We have had interest in it, is what I've been told. I've had one individual reach out just to kind of learn a little bit more about Price County before they considered applying through the governor's office. But it's been quite a while since we've had either a special prosecutor or a DA. We do still have an assistant ADA to keep as much going as possible. So right now there's been no major movement on that. And even if there was, an interested party, it's still, they have to establish residency before the governor would even announce that there is an appointment. So that would take at least 30 to 45 days after an interview process.
Okay. Any questions on that? Comments? I'll accept the clerk of court report. Here comes the big one.
Oh, that was DAs. We still have clerk. I can do clerk of court too. We just did number 4, the district attorney.
Yeah, go ahead.
Number 5, clerk of courts. I was like, I did have an update there. So big thing happened in clerk of courts is just the cost of some of our cases coming through right now. We have one that they're looking to assign a special prosecutor for, but then that it is very expensive for the county to pick up that. So we're working through some of those issues that we're seeing. One with a translator, and I don't know the status of that one, where it's only like 2 individuals in the whole US that can do whatever the language was, and that was potentially going to a jury trial. So we're working with the state on how that would work, because you technically have to have 2 because they can only work so long before they have to switch off. So that one we're waiting for kind of a status update, whether it will go to trial and how those translators will work out. And I think one of the translators is located in Hawaii and the other one's is like Kansas. So it's not come on down the road and get this done. So there may be some significant expenses coming through the DA's office. On the other side of that, we are seeing there was state legislation last year during the budget that allocated quite a bit more money. The state or the WCA asked for $90 or $92 million. I think the state allocated an additional 15 to 20, but now they're going for separate legislation that would add, I can't remember if it was 40 million to that or 50 million to that. I haven't seen the final number, which would assist with things like the translation and additional costs that haven't been covered under that mandated service of the court system for a long time. So we're seeing some positive movement at the state level with funding. It just hasn't happened yet.
Okay, thanks, Nick.
Yep, you're welcome.
Number 6, Sheriff's Office.
All right. Going down to the new ordinance, Bob would like to speak about the new ordinance, and then we can move forward on through that. That was a discussion to just bring up and see where you guys would like to sit if we need to go in this direction.
Good morning. So we've been discussing the need for a new ordinance regarding dangerous animals within a household. What we've been seeing, or our humane officer has been seeing and having issues with, is these households that have multiple animals, and they would have, say, an animal bite with a chocolate lab at that residence, and then 6 months later you have a pit bull chasing a kid down the street. You know what I mean? So we've had a couple of those scenarios where we can't, our vicious dog ordinance or dangerous dog ordinance is not applicable because we don't have 2 bites from the same animal. And so what we've been discussing with Nick, and I guess we would ask that you guys consider is, looking at either updating an ordinance or creating a new ordinance that would address the dangerous animal households where you have, two or more separate animals that, are acting dangerously, chasing people down the road, biting them, things like that. Something that gives us a tool to address the homeowners or the owners of the animal as opposed to just a specific animal. Nick, is a copy of this in their
Yeah, so
packets?
you should
So-
have a copy of kind of the outline that Bobby just went through, talking about what we just, so this is what they presented to our office to bring to you guys, discussing it. When Chief Deputy Hahn talks about, do you make a whole new ordinance or do you add it to something? We currently have, and I don't know the exact name of the ordinance, but like if a dog bites you, so a dangerous animal ordinance, we talked about there's an option where you could say under that same ordinance, this would be kind of the enhancer of, okay, now you have a dangerous dog. Does it also fall within this household issue rather than making a whole new ordinance? Or we can go the whole new ordinance route. That would really be more of the legal side of how they want to work through that when something needs to be looked at. So do you want to kind of talk about the process? It's not a writ, but what's the, if someone were to have these dangerous dogs, it's not a court system thing. It's a,
as far as, if they wanted to contest it,
well, and just, it's like, it's not a ticket. It's more of a,
it's almost like an abatement, right?
there you go. That's the word. I couldn't
So
think.
yeah, so it would be like an abatement where, there's this, the humane officer would go and would issue this, and this would be a requirement in order to keep that animal at that property. Say, that this dog bit somebody outside. It was not leashed in any way, shape, or form. The dog ran off property and bit somebody walking along the sidewalk. There could be, this instruction given by the humane officer that requires that anytime this animal is outside the home, it's leashed or fenced, contained in some way, shape, or form. If they fail to follow it, then we remove that animal from that residence. Same thing with inside the residence. We can require posting signage to alert visitors of that. Now, the one thing we are not looking to do is, we are not looking to, I guess, make a dog a dangerous animal simply for protecting its house, right? You have that unwanted guest that breaks in and the dog tears them apart. That's, I think, a consequence of your choice. But what we're saying is, it's a visitor of the home, somebody who was supposed to be there, was allowed to be there, and was unprovoked, had this bite. That's what we're looking at.
So then if a abatement was issued, the homeowner, just like in a bite situation or a vicious dog situation, we would build in a process that they could say, nope, the humane officer is wrong. Here's my side of the story. In the current vicious dog one, it's the Office of Administration would receive that and review it. The reason we do it talks about possibly Corp Counsel or Office of Administration. The reason that it's tough to do Corp Counsel is usually Corp Counsel is the one that's involved in creating the abatement order with the humane officer. So we could still go that route, but then it would just be an assistant corporation counsel. So you'd go down the line, or we could, again, when you write it, use that same process of they turn in something to the Office of Administration. It gets reviewed to decide, almost like hear both sides. So you have a checks and balance.
Is this happening a lot? Or-
It's not happening a lot, no. But the reason why it got brought up is I believe it was twice this past year we've had this issue. It was once here in the city of Phillips and then down in the town of Ogama. So, but we do have, several houses that they will have one animal that has a bite history. And but they have multiple animals in the home. So I guess we've had it happen twice this year. And we're just looking to give us the tools if this continues to be an issue, something to address this.
I would think we should just add it to our existing ordinance, our vicious animal ordinance. That would, I guess, make sense to me rather than come up with a new ordinance. How's the rest of the committee feel?
Well, I think that makes sense. Is there a need to have it separate?
I don't believe so. I think, either our corporation counsel or Bryce would be probably best to, tell us if we should have a new ordinance or if we can add it to an existing ordinance. But I don't see an issue with adding it to an existing ordinance. I really don't.
So right now, what happens if you get a bite? You don't have citation authority? Is that the real issue?
Typically, if you have an animal bite, number one, it depends on if the animal was vaccinated or not.
Right.
If it was not vaccinated, then you have the quarantine period. If that quarantine is not followed, that's when you're looking at, different penalties, whether it's a criminal referral or the citation, as well as us physically taking that animal and placing it in quarantine. If the animal is vaccinated, then there is still a 10-day process that they have to follow. I believe they have to have 2 separate vet
Visits,
checks
yeah.
in that day, or in that 10-day period. So that's typically the process that we have now. Now, if that animal was loose running down the street and bit somebody, yes, there would be a citation issued there for
Okay.
failure to control animal.
Yep.
But this gives us a little bit more teeth as far as protecting the public, being able to place these restrictions on not just the animal, but the owner as well. That, okay, if this animal is going to be outside, it either has to be within a fence that is designed to hold the animal, or it has to be on a leash under your physical control at all times.
Do you want to talk about the difference? Because we do have a lot of bites situations, like health department steps in and works with those. So you report that. And I want to say we average probably 6 to a dozen a year of actual bites. This is a different level of a animal biting somebody. This is, and I know we use the word vicious, but that's not a good definition. But there is a difference between, oops, that's dog bit someone, and the uncontrolled. And then this one is kind of the third step of you had a vicious dog at one point. That dog may have been removed from the home, or some steps were taken. They go and get another dog that happens to get into the same situation. So now we're having a repetitive, because you right now the vicious animal is the animal, not the continued activity of getting an animal and allowing it to get to that stage.
This is more or less addressing owner responsibility, not a specific animal that bit a person one time. It's the owner responsibility to maintain custody of their animals.
So today, what the law enforcement, myself, we're looking for is, if this is something you guys are interested in, then we'll start working on the verbiage of an ordinance. And so it's a 3 to 6 month process. By the time you get the verbiage, you guys have to approve a verbiage for public hearing, then the public hearing has to happen, and then it's got to go to the full board. So this is not today we have now a vicious animal household ordinance. It's a long process. We just wanted to bring it to the attention of the group to say, is this something worth our time working on?
I certainly think it is. We're always interested in our officers' safety and working out in the element.
You have to give them the tools that they need to work with. So
I agree.
Do you need a motion?
Dude, wouldn't hurt
Yeah.
to say.
Okay, well, I'll make
Let's-
a motion to proceed with developing the right
Dangerous
language
animals.
for the ordinance to cover this issue and incorporate it in the existing
Mhm.
ordinance instead of a separate ordinance.
Okay.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? You have it written, Meredith. I think that's a good idea, Joe.
You can correct me if I'm wrong, especially at the end. Motion Kopish, second Worko to proceed with developing language to address the issue of dangerous animal households and to amend the current ordinance. Incorporate.
And we'll let you know if Bryce said, or we'll most likely be using Bryce to write this ordinance, but if, and maybe Megan, but if either one of them is like, no, this is a separate type of issue, we'll bring it back and let you know. Yeah. Our goal is to incorporate it.
Meredith, you always make us look good.
You do that on your own.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Will that be ready for our next law enforcement meeting?
How many months are you going to skip?
That's up to you.
We're getting,
Yeah, I would guess 30 to 60 days it'll take us between legal. So we'll do our best. It'll be for within the next meeting or two, within the next month or two.
okay. Thank you.
Okay, the next thing that we wanted to discuss was the equipment update. As far as what we need currently right now, we talked about tasers and how we have tasers. Bob has the Taser 2, which is becoming end of life. They are starting to, well, we can still get probes, we can still get some equipment for it. A lot of times we have to go maybe eBay or something like that, or other agencies that are getting rid of them. As I talked to you before, Taser 10 is out now. Taser 10 is considered a firearm because it does use a primer. The Taser 2s are, like I said, phasing out. This one is off now because it has a bad display. And Bob can show you what the Taser is. It is $1,000 piece of equipment. It is, we use it as part of our, what you call like our use force continuum. That's an old term. I grew up in the RISC era where it was, presence, voice, impact weapons, guns. They've now made less lethal as part of the curriculum. Where this is the piece of equipment where people sit there and say the probes, they shoot someone with the probes and then it gives them a big muscle spasm. And then the fight is pretty much done from, it saves people. We don't have to get physical in a sense, more so. This is one of those that's a non-lethal or less lethal, I should say less lethal item. There has been studies done on it. So I'm just giving you guys an update on that as far as when we move forward in the future. Our tasers initially were like around that $28,000 mark. They're much more expensive now. And we're talking, they want like a service agreement. They want to have a number of instructors. They want to be able to hold the information and as far as the downloads onto a cloud-based where they control it, which I don't like. I like having TJ and our servers and keep our information. So the tasers, just going around and showing you that so you can see that that is a future item that will need to be discussed moving forward, probably 2029.
What was the $28,000 amount relative to
So that was probably to the purchase of tasers at the time when we had gone through.
when you
and-
bought the whole shebang?
Yeah, we had tasers. We had like the X26 and then we went to the Taser 2. And then at that point, then they came up with another brand. And so it is a proprietary market and also property.
So that cost today would be what?
We looked at one time, it was like
One-
80 grand,
I thought it was 120.
120. We're talking between 120 and 80,000.
We bought a few of them for the park both police.
For the same amount of equipment? it's
Yeah.
120 instead of 28?
Well, and again, it's a service agreement too. They
Oh,
also
okay.
want that 5-year thing where every year.
Yeah, so the equipment's 80, but the whole service is 120 for, I think it was 5 or 8 years
So
of
this is-
service.
Okay,
So
gotcha. Okay. but
it is
still,
on,
it's
yeah,
a lot of
and
money.
the sheriff has brought this forward last year and a half, 2 years ago. It's been a kind of, it's on our list of, we know it's coming. We know this has to be put into the budget process, but it doesn't hurt to keep everybody updated.
And again, this is a tool that law enforcement uses. It's, like I said, less lethal, it goes along with pepper spray, so these are one of those items that, it helps the officer, I guess, control the situation without having to cause any injury, to either party, the officer or the individual. The next piece of equipment I just wanted to talk to you about.
Before we get off of the tasers, is there any grant money out there for that, Brian?
Not at this time. We have, most of the grants that we've been seeing are more, like I said, communication, like your PSAP, our dispatch center, which we just, did that grant and we're waiting for the money to come in. So again, we haven't seen the equipment grants come out yet. So we've been dealing with obviously that part. But if we do see a grant, Danielle, the jail administrator, we'll get her on that right away. In the budget for this year, 2026, you guys had authorized it was armor, rifle armor, $7,000. One of the things that I've been looking at moving forward with is the federal government has what's called the 1033 program, where we're allowed to get military type equipment for our use here within the county. Again, you have to apply for it, you have to get authorized to have it, and then there's a reporting process that goes along with it. My goal was to take that money and potentially look at what would be referred to as an MRAP or an armored vehicle for our SRT to deploy when necessary when we have those calls. So right now with the $7,000 in the budget, if I looked at it, and we're not guaranteed this item, there's one in Palm Beach, Florida, that I'd been looking at to possibly like transport up here and then utilize that as some piece of equipment, and just giving you a heads up, that's something I'm looking to do within the budget and stay within the bounds of the budget. If you guys have any questions on that, I can certainly give you, it's just a preview. We're just talking about, Bob and I are talking about, we're talking with the, I guess the facilitator of the 1033 program, working with our SRT leaders and with Seth Daba, our lieutenant, and looking at, is this something that's necessary, viable, and sustainable, basically also financially? Can we financially, fiscally afford something like that just for maintenance purposes? An MRAP, I think, is like $600,000. So this would be something that the federal government would give us as part of that program. So I'm looking at doing that, and I'll give you more information if we need to or move forward.
How old is that vehicle, Brian?
I'm not sure.
I don't recall.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It's newer.
It's a newer MRAP.
It's 2015 when you showed me.
What does MRAP stand for?
Our military guy's right here, so he can give you that.
I don't know what it actually stands for, but it's called a Max Pro. So what it is, it's a 4-wheel drive vehicle that is completely armored. I do believe it has a turret, it has a bulletproof windows on it. And what this vehicle, it is large. I want to say it's probably going to weigh about 30,000 pounds. But it has a very wide footprint as far as the tires go. But what this would allow us to do is allow us to move up to a residence. Say you have an armed subject, that's the unit, a similar unit to what we're looking at. That top right picture is a unit that we're looking at without the turret on top. So that's what we would be looking at getting. That we believe is the one that's most feasible for us and useful for us up in our conditions. Again, that unit allows us to bring officers directly up to a house that say they have an armed subject in there. If it gets to the point where we have to force entry into the residence, that vehicle can be utilized for that as well, while keeping us safe. And it can also be used as an extraction vehicle. Say, we ever have that incident where we have an active shooter or something like that, we can drive this up, grab the injured subjects and drive them out.
So back to the numbers, you said you got 7,000 in your budget?
Well,
And this cost 600?
okay. What it is, the 1033 program gives it to you to use. Yes, you have to go get it, obviously. It's not that we pay the cost of what it is. We pay for, obviously, our yearly fee. Something like that piece of equipment would be $250 a year. And it's registered with them at I believe it's the military with I forget the agency that does it. It's a Bureau of Justice. Yeah, Fort McCoy. So we would utilize that piece. If it's called back into service, then the federal government can say we want that back.
Oh, so we're not buying it, we're just
Oh, no.
Renting it.
renting it for a very low amount
We're asking to
comparatively.
use it.
Yeah,
So in the budget, yes, you guys had authorized $7,000 for rifle armor, like rifle plates and stuff like that. If we have that available to us, I was thinking this would be the better option for us tactically and also safety wise for our officers and the community. And yeah, just little questions like that. No, I understand your trepidation, Bob, but you know, I would not come into you asking for $600,000, not yet.
Not
If
yet.
you- If you want to give us that, Bob, that's quite all right.
To be honest with you, Brian, it makes me nervous
Okay,
getting military equipment
sure.
because the perception's always going to be there that we're militarizing the sheriff's
I may-
department and I don't care for that. So-
Mr. Chair, may I give my 2 cents?
Sure.
I'm just curious. I agree with what Dennis just said. Well, I thought you were done. I'm sorry.
No, let's go ahead. Go ahead. I probably get myself in trouble if I keep talking. So.
Well,
Turn your mic on.
from what I've heard, I agree with what you're saying because the general population is going to not look favorably on it, I think.
Yeah.
My question is, in the past, would a unit like this been helpful? It's always helpful, but I mean, what's the perceived need?
Okay, so if you guys go back, let's take some time going back to the Bruling homicide up in Park Falls. If you guys remember that, where the individual was in the home, we had bodies outside the home. That was a homicide, suicide scene. Unknown what was going on, the approach would have been using this piece of equipment to go up to that residence. As is now, we use shields. We do have some shields, but this would be more for the entire TAC team itself to make the approach to that residence. That's a prime example of some of that. And I'm giving you a little more history versus more recent stuff, but we have called in the TAC units from Oneida, Lincoln. They brought the Bearcat from Rhinelander. I believe at one time we had Douglas County's Bearcat down here. So again, that's a waiting game, which you can do on some calls you can't. And those are the type of situations you're dealing with. We recently had the item in Park Falls where, you know, the individual was supposedly had a weapon. We had the vehicle. This makes, again, a safer approach for the officers and more of them inside this item. We've done military equipment before here, though. You know, the 1033 program, we have utilized rifles from the military, brought them in. I returned them because we had upgraded when we got budgeted to get the ARs, the platform that we currently have now. And we did have the Humvee for a number of years that was sitting up at Mintles. That was through the 1033 program too, which we utilized for drug search activities out in the federal forest.
So if we would get this, it would cost the county $250 a year out of your budget.
Well, $250 a year is what the registration is because of the
Okay.
value of the piece of
What
equipment.
about maintenance? What kind of maintenance are we responsible for? Because I bet a tire on that thing costs more than $7,000.
That's a good question. Maintenance one, I was looking and trying to research. We do have one part of our staffing issue. Drew is in the military. He's obviously deployed right now to the Baltic states or Poland. His MOS is obviously a diesel mechanic. So we would lean a little bit on highway. We'd lean a little bit on Drew. Our military people that are within our organization already are currently that are enlisted or that have, stepped like Bob is. I don't remember his MOS. I'm not saying it was diesel mechanic, but military guys that we have within our organization.
What specifically are we agreeing to with the military if we get this? So all maintenance or?
Yep. Yeah, we would have to
we
deal
have
with
to
the maintenance.
Maintain it
Yep.
completely at our expense.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I need to research. We need to come up with numbers. We need to know what it is. If it's viable, that's great. If it's not, well, then I'm going to shoot you some numbers and show you. And Nick and I'll talk, and I'll talk with the the staff and stuff, and we'll try to figure out, because you can put some sweat equity into things too. You know, deputies, if they're, you know, our SRT people, if they want to work on it, then we get to work on it. You know, those are some of the things that we would have to look at in the future. But again, I'm planting the seed. It's 2026 budget, and I'm not going to pull the trigger right now per se, but just giving you a heads up on looking at doing.
Joe had his hand up.
So, the perception idea of it doesn't bother me so much as it's for officer safety. So I think the perception of it is more of an educational thing to let the public know, yeah, this isn't something we're coming to militarize. It's something that protects our officers, and it's also public safety. And I assume that this type of vehicle could be used for natural disasters type things, for extracting people in situations where you can't get a pickup in or something like that. So I don't, like I said, I don't have an issue with it. I think it's a good idea if the numbers come out correct to where it's not a huge fiscal impact, because of the amount of use that you would get out of it. So yeah, I think it's a good idea to proceed investigating it more.
Yeah, and that's what I'm doing. And I understand, Dewey, that you have those concerns. We've all talked about, one of the first things we talked about when the officers went to, like the tactical vest Bob has, it's a little bit more dressier, but we talked about how the perception of the gear up top looks more military. And those are one of the things. But again, we had to move that aside and look at the health and wellness of the officer, getting the stuff off the belt, off their hips and onto their shoulders more, and try to balance that. So I did have that, and I know it's minor, but again, versus how I look now versus what Bob is, it does sometimes people think that looks too militaristic. So, but again, there's reasons why we do what we do as far as the concerns. And we've had a couple of calls that it would have been a nice piece of equipment to have.
I'm not so much against a piece of equipment. I just want to give you caution on how it's used,
Oh,
what
absolutely.
it's used for, you know, that's where the perception will come in.
And you can talk with the chief deputy. He knows it's taken him this long to have me bring it up. It's been about 2 years. He keeps talking about it. I do understand, because I do talk with people in the public, the same as you guys do. There is that perception that can be miscrewed or mistaken at times. And that worries me, because again, I don't want people to think that we're coming in, crashing in doors for no reason. We have reasons for what we do. We follow the court. We follow our warrants, our orders, stuff like that. We're not careless, as some maybe people perceive some organizations as.
I just hope the next sheriff has wisdom.
Well, now there you go again. There you go again. Trying to dismiss me already, Dewey. Jeez.
How readily available are these?
We've just asked, again, they put it out on kind of what their internet would be, or their line. This is open up to the entire nation. So we would be thrown into obviously the mix, even if it'd probably be some form of lottery or need. Again, since they would look at where they can place it around the nation, where is the greatest need? Could be a lottery system, but we're not the only ones interested in it. There could be 20, 30 other agencies that would be in line, and they may have a greater need for it. So again, just planting the seed, letting you guys know about it. These are things, like I said, that it's been brought up to me from the chief deputy, and I'm bringing it forward now since we may have this opportunity.
I would think we should allow them to continue the research on it. Nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Yeah, and that's why I appreciate it. If you guys just hear us out and let us show you some numbers, you guys can research it yourself at night when you have an opportunity online, I'm sure. And if you have family members that are in the military, seek them out. Any other questions on that? Any other? I was going to have Dakota come with the drone, but he's been busy on nights. So at some time, maybe at the next meeting, I'll have Dakota come, because I really want him to come and have a little public speaking with you folks. And then also display the drone from the previous purchase that we had budgeted a couple of years ago. Staffing needs, we still have, Drew is still on deployment in Eastern Europe. We have a deputy coming up on maternity leave. Currently have a deputy on medical leave, and I have one deputy slot open. We have been advertising since October of 25. We are getting low numbers for applications. So we still have, those are some of our staffing and needs and issues right now. Just to keep.
Why are we getting fewer? Are there fewer going into police science?
We've seen well, after the COVID pandemic, I know that it kind of shocked the system a little bit. And I think and we always we want to blame the generation, like Generation Z or Generation Alpha or whatever. I just don't think that maybe that the younger people today really have the notion of public service as much as maybe previous generations. That's something along that line potentially. Being in law enforcement has also been criticized more and more, as we could see just what happened in Minneapolis and how that's thrown out to the public. Again, being lumped in with everyone, we're going to support all our partners and all our people that we work with, in particular here in the county, Park Falls, Phillips, things of that nature.
Has nothing to do with our administrator or county board chair?
You could say it's due to one of those. No. I would also say that talking to surrounding counties, we're not in a unique position.
Mhm.
This is a law enforcement across the state situation. Like Brian brought up, there was a lot of resignations or retirements during a 3 to 4 year period, which then shocks the system, was a kind of a good way to put it. And then you're just not seeing as many coming through the recruit school. And then the ones that are already picked up, sponsored. That's what we're sponsored by other places because they're usually sought out and sent to it. The other thing we're seeing too is just the numbers at those schools just are down compared to 10 years ago.
Well, with the society we live in today, with the drugs and the poor respect for law enforcement, I don't know anybody that would want to get into it. But kudos to those that are.
Is that something the county should look at in the future, incentivizing recruits?
Well, and we have strategized, Brian, in regards to how our recruiting is going, how we do it. We need to talk a little bit, and I'm gonna throw this out there. And we have talked about pay in the past. I know we just recently settled the contract. Again, I would always ask that the board, you folks, Nicholas, to take into consideration not just surrounding counties, but all our counties as a whole, and look at the pay structure. But again, we've always discussed, do you pay $50 an hour and then someone says, I want some more? There's a balance. There's got to be a balance, and the balance of lifestyle and work. I think we have a great balance within our organization right now because we talk a lot about what's going on in-house. We talk about the needs of what the deputies have, the needs that you have, and the needs that the public has, and a trifecta. So we try to balance all of this. Go ahead, Nick.
We do have a sponsorship program currently where an individual, if we sponsor, they get a $500, I believe, a week per diem while they're going to school. They can work part-time for us on the weekends. But it's a 19-week program.
It's
18?
17 weeks, but again, I think we need to always evolve.
Right,
always
and that's an older program that we've talked about looking at.
I think at some point we need to look at, if we're going to incentivize, like you said, we need to pay them a living wage as they're going through recruit school, and go back to like when I was hired, Craig sent me through recruit school, but I got paid an hourly rate. And I worked for the Phillips PD on weekends sometimes while you're in recruit school, which that's difficult, but you pay them a living wage, you have them work for you. You try to then say you need to stay with us for 3 years, like to the county, to pay back
For
tax.
sure, you'd have to have a commitment.
Yes, a commitment from the individual to stay within our community as a whole, all of Price County. So as we talk about this policy, Nick is talking about the stipend. I think we need to change that through policy. You guys have a policy administration or law enforcement make that suggestion. That would give us an opportunity to bring someone in, that send them to recruit school, or get the 5-year program going through the Department of Justice for 60 college credits, put them through and get them here on the ground, boots on the ground, helping out on patrol.
Our other part too is, even if we could, it's hard to find a sponsor or someone to sponsor because we are the Northwoods, right? You're not seeing a lot of the locals that want to go. We've tried a couple or talked to a couple locals, but again, if you're from southern Wisconsin and your family's down there and all those things, it's hard to even say, hey, we'll sponsor you in northern Wisconsin when they've never been here or they don't know what it's going to be like. But if we can get them here and get them 2 to 4, 5 years down the line, usually you can hook them in and that's their career. And so we're in a multi-variable situation where it's tough. I mean, any recruiting of jobs around here is tough because it's a unique place.
And again, so State Patrol, if I go back 35 years, State Patrol was making more than deputies at the time, troopers were. And then finally deputies started catching up law enforcement. Now troopers have jumped ahead again. You know, DNR wardens DNR, State Patrol, they're around that $40, $42 an hour mark. So again, I'm seeing the cycle come back around where it's an ebb and flow, where we kind of go back and then the counties, all the counties start working their way back up through the pay scales. So again, it's part of I guess, what we expect or encounter every so often. So do the State Patrol get numbers? I think they do because of the pay rates that they have. The prisons have gone up. I think they're 34, 38, 37, somewhere in there. The game wardens, they're up there in that $40 mark. So again, but again, how do we balance that with what we have budgetary and, tax dollars and things of that nature? What's the priority in that sense? Any other questions on that? Just to keep you up to date, at this point, I do have 2 retirements for 2026 coming up. So as we talked about the staffing needs, we have other retirements pending. And then, let's see, Robert, you want to talk about animal control?
Want to go over the jail or do you want to go over it first?
You can go over to jail if you want.
Okay.
If you want to bring that up, that's up to you.
All right. So I guess I'd like to touch a little bit on the jail, and some issues that apparently have been, I don't even really want to call it circulating on Facebook. I would say that our supposed candidate for sheriff has been spreading misinformation about inmates that we have in our facility. And so I'd like to take this time to get ahead of that, and to address anybody listening out there to provide them with the facts and not whatever that skewed information is. We do have an inmate in our facility who is an undocumented alien. He was arrested on August 24th of 2025 for a violent domestic abuse related incident. He was booked into our jail for substantial battery, disorderly conduct, domestic violence related, as well as felony bail jumping. At the time of his arrest, he was subject to a felony bond as he had an open felony case in Eau Claire County with similar domestic violence charges. In addition to that, he was also on a deferred entry of judgment in Dunn County for, once again, another domestic violence offense. He appeared in front of our court on August 25th, in which a $5,000 cash bond was set by the courts. The criminal complaint was issued by the district attorney's office in September of 2025, charging him with the charges in that complaint mirrored the charges that he was booked into our facility on. He did have an initial appearance in that case, and bond was ordered to continue. On October 7th, he had a preliminary hearing, and his bond was reduced to $2,500 in cash. On December 3rd, they requested another bond reduction, in which the courts denied. And at that point, the defense requested a speedy trial. So where we are at with this inmate is that he is scheduled for a plea and sentencing hearing on February 19th. Now, what was being questioned was why the sheriff hasn't removed this individual from the jail and turned this individual over to ICE. That is not the way this process works. Okay. When we have an individual like this that is arrested, okay, ICE will not come and pick them up until their case is adjudicated and they're released from custody. Okay, we don't just take somebody who has pending criminal charges and turn them over to ICE and they're sent back to wherever. That's not the way it works. The case has to be adjudicated. The person has to be released from our custody. And so there's several reasons why this individual is still in our facility. First and foremost is the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which clearly states that nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Okay, that our founding fathers found important, and our sheriff follows that to a T. In addition to that, the Wisconsin Constitution states in Article 1, Section 7, in all criminal prosecution, the accused shall enjoy the right to be heard by himself and counsel, to demand the nature and cause of the accusations against him, to meet the witnesses face to face, to have compulsory process, to compel the attendance of witnesses in his behalf, and in prosecutions by indictment or information to a speedy public trial by an impartial jury of the county or district wherein the offense shall have been committed. Okay, so once again, our sheriff is following the Constitution of Wisconsin. In addition to that, Mr. Reyes is subject to a cash bond that's established by the courts. It's an order from a circuit court judge that is requiring that he pay $5,000 to be released from jail. Now that's been reduced to $2,500. The reason why bond is established is identified in Wisconsin Statute 969.0001, that there shall be a monetary condition of release. Bail is determined under Wisconsin statute if there is a reasonable basis to believe that bail is necessary to assure the defendant's appearance in court, and if the defendant is accused of a violent crime, which substantial battery in the state of Wisconsin is defined as a violent crime. The courts can consider the defendant has previous convictions for violent crime, the probability the defendant will fail to appear in court, and the need to protect members of the community from serious harm, and the need to prevent the intimidation of witnesses. This individual has shown through 3 separate counties that this is repeated behavior, and so the courts do need to protect the victims in this case. And lastly, Wisconsin does have what is called the Victims' Bill of Rights. And that Bill of Rights is identified in Wisconsin Statute 950.04. That Bill of Rights states that it requires the rights of victims be honored and protected by law enforcement agencies, prosecutors, and judges. Our victims have a right to have their cases heard in front of a jury, and they have a right to see justice done. So to dispel any misinformation that Mr. Walt Madsen is spreading to the citizens of Price County, all right, the sheriff is following the Constitution of the United States. And what I will say is, don't allow this clown to turn Price County into his circus. Okay, thank you.
I just a question on that with ICE. So he's in jail,
Yes,
but if he pays the bond, he gets out of jail, right?
yes.
Can ICE pick him up then?
Yes, so, and I should have explained that process. So after this case has been adjudicated and this individual is set for release, ICE then issues what's called a detainer, and that is a request to the sheriff to hold that individual for a period of 48 hours to allow an ICE agent to come and take custody of this individual, and then they go through their process with that individual. Now, with that process, they have 48 hours. They don't have 48 hours and 20 minutes, okay? If they don't appear in that 48 hours, that individual is released, okay? And so, but what we have found in past cases is that ICE has come, and they're pretty quick about getting up here. But again, they have that 48 hours to come and pick that individual up upon their release from.
But that would happen if he pays his bond?
That could happen if he pays his
He'd
bond,
be,
yes.
ICE would get involved at that point?
They could, yes.
Well, and you're probably going to have protesting. I understand last week up in Park Falls, they were anti-ICE going on up and down the highway. I wasn't around, I didn't see it. But you probably will have some protesting, but whatever, it is what it is.
So I can only give you a little history about ICE in Price County. Back in 88, we did have Cuban nationals in the jail we housed. They set fire, they destroyed the max cell block. You're good?
Yeah, we are.
Okay, all right, we'll talk to you. So we did have, at one time, we did assist, I believe it was the federal government at that time. We did house, then once that fire took place, then I believe it was Wayne was the sheriff. Wayne called I think immigration, come and get your people and get them out. This last year, we did have an ICE pickup where an individual fulfilled his obligation to our community based on his crimes. ICE came up and got that individual. We did have another one. We notified ICE of a Ukrainian. They did not want him. We do reach out to all our partners in dealing with when it's presented to us, but and we follow what we need to do for our community, not for just one individual or some other individuals. So I just wanted to give you guys an update on moving forward. If you guys hear things, you have constituents that reach out to each and every one of you. That is giving you everything that I have at this moment on that.
Sounds like you're following the law. And if there's protests, as long as they're peaceful, that's okay too.
Yeah, I mean, Act 10 happened in 2012, 2011, where the teachers, the public union thing, we had protesting up at the lanes in Park Falls. There must have been 150 people up at the protests. And I was the only one there with Tim Dane. I mean, everyone, I walked through the crowd, we were laughing, shaking hands. They were peaceful. Everyone's been peaceful. I have not received any complaints of any violence, anyone not allowing someone to speak or someone to speak. They're peacefully protesting, and God bless them. That's their constitutional right to do so. So, wanted to give you a little bit of some numbers. I know I may be jumping around on a little bit here, but do you have the agenda? So the humane officer and animal control, I want to just give you some final numbers on that. So animal control, we've come to the end of the year for 2025, January 1 to December 31st. The sheriff's office had 3,008 law incidences, complaints. Those are the things that we send on and make referrals. Animal control handled 437. Bob had a number, we had like 440, we're in that range. It was about 15% of total incidences that Mindy is handling right now as far as animal control. And when we developed it, again, we talked about the 70-30. This has become more of 100% animal control with what's going on with hoarding, animal complaints. So I wanted to go down that real quick. Animal complaints, we had 215, animal bites, 35, animal welfare checks, 34, nuisance animals, 10, assist another agency was a cat bite, was 1, and lost and found animals, 142. So it gives you an idea that Mindy is actively in the community throughout Park Falls, Phillips, Prentice, throughout the entire county. The canine units, just going through, Joe Janik has indicated to me that he is looking to retire this year in 2026, which would then mean that Dixon would retire. So we would be looking to possibly look at a secondary canine unit. Again, like my ideas were to always stagger the canines, where you have a canine that's got some experience, and then when you get a new one, we don't have 2 dogs at the same time retiring. Moving forward, we're gonna have to look, and the chief deputy and myself working to select someone internally to potentially have another canine when we're ready for that moment. And then we do probably need to send someone to decoy school, which we have a number of bite suits at the sheriff's office, which Nicholas has graciously volunteered a couple times. So we will. You told me the other day you wanted to take a bite. So we're looking at some point we'll have to send someone to decoy school. And that is a 5-day school because you do have to learn how to take a bite and get beyond that, I guess, human fear sometimes of an animal bite. Let's see. I will reach out to her at some point and then Bob, introduce her to Bob also, as far as like when Brian Roush was chief deputy, to move forward. So we have that continuity and flow with that. Yes, there is. I would reach out to her. I've started the process just a little bit, but I really gotta be careful again when the policies of the county are until we have like a resignation or a retirement letter. But I want to plant the seed and get the kind of the building blocks foundation for it when that time comes. And I did ask Joe to give us a little bit more. I think the policy is 30 days that he has to. So I asked him, like, give me 3 months maybe, you know, when he's going to do it and help us, because we really can't, I think policy wise, can't do anything until we have letter in hand. 9 years? Yeah, 8, 9 years. Okay, going forward with the jail, Bob had talked about jail a little bit. Can I give you some numbers? In 2025 or 2024, we had 556 bookings. That's again, people coming into the jail, being booked in. 2025, we've had 638 bookings. On the dispatch side of things, just to give you an idea, end of year, phone calls coming in and out of the sheriff's office, we had 88,213. And this is all administrative lines, all 911 calls. These are all lines going in and out. The total time would have for this 88,000 would be 309,607 minutes. That comes out to 3.5 minutes per call on average. So, and again, 1 year is 525,600 minutes in a year. So I just, yeah, I can get you a copy of that.
Brian, do you want to talk about the communications upgrades? And that's a little bit of why the budget number was what it was last year.
So yeah, I know many of you are probably sitting there and your mouth is agape with some of the things going on in the jail budget. There was a PSAP grant that we went through for a 90-10. Danielle's been working with DMB, or the Department of Military Affairs, DMA, through the state to get some of these funds in to upgrade our system. So we used to have copper coming into the jail for dispatch. We have fiber now coming in. I think we still have maybe one copper that maybe runs over to the water tower. And this is part of that whole radio project that we talked about as far as bug tussle, moving forward and trying to find funding mechanisms that would, I guess, enhance our ability to get better communications without really putting a big lump on the taxpayer and through that burden. So we're trying to do that through that mechanism that the Office of Administration, my office, are trying to work with. And then we had some upgrades to the recording system as far as an additional feature to Higher Ground for recording. And then again, we have Rapid SOS, and these are triangulations and trying to, when a 911 call comes in and it's like showing somewhere that's, because it's cell phone, we don't have the old landlines from 1994. We have to triangulate and try to come into an area. A Rapid SOS gives us a little tighter number so we can get to maybe in 30 meters of this dot, there's a 911 call in 30-meter section of Price County. So that's helped us fine tune our 911 system.
So on that budget, I can't remember it's 400 over, but it's not, because 128,000 for sure. We're getting the 90-10 grant.
Yeah.
So that's over $100,000 of revenue that we haven't offset that with yet. So we had to spend it. We'll get it back. And then the second part that you were talking about, they've indicated that they are going to include it in the grant. We just had to give them more information. So that'll be another, I think it was like 30.
Yeah, 28
or 30. There's some, say $30,000 that'll also be considered in that 90-10. So in the end, there should be a significant receivable that we're getting. We know, like I said, the 130 is covered at the 90-10. We believe the other 30 that was part of this project should be considered in the 90-10. We just had to do some additional paperwork. So in the end, there's quite a bit of funding still coming in for last year's projects that were approved.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
You
were throwing out a lot of numbers. I just want to make sure I know the time period. That first number, that 3008.
Oh, that's okay.
What time
That's the
period
law.
is that?
That's the law incidences.
Yeah.
That's what we.
Was that the whole year?
Yeah, that's the whole year.
okay,
And
that's for-
generally CAD calls are another part of that, but I gave you the law instances. That's where our greatest work lies in with
Yep.
the investigations and referrals.
And then you had the 88,213
That would have been the
total number of calls. for the
total number
whole-
of calls
for everything,
in incoming and outgoing.
in and out.
Yes, in and
Okay.
out.
And Brian calls me at least 20 times a day, so.
Oh, so it's a lot of this.
Yeah, that eats
And
up that
and then the
88,000.
309,000 minutes, that was on those 88,000 calls.
Correct.
Okay, all right. And it's 3 minutes or something. Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. All right.
So it just tells you how busy our PSAP is, our dispatch center, and what they deal with well, you have to sit and actually see what they deal with. You know, recently we had a couple MABUS calls in our community, one here in Phillips where they did call out dispatch, and we had to get multiple fire departments to fire call just outside the city. So again, and then that's something that our dispatch does. Can be. 7, yes. Well, those are law records. You're talking telephone calls. That's different. Separate that. No, that's law calls. That's calls that people say, I need an officer to come to my house. And there are CAD calls. That CAD calls is a different number. That's like traffic stops. That's other issues that don't get referred. Abandoned 911, a parking issue here, things like that. Yes. Yes. Moving forward, I wanted to make sure you guys understood what that was about. The rec officer, I know that, Robert, this is one that you, always asking about. You do, and that's fine. I appreciate you, Bob. So. So, snowmobile patrol for 2024-25. So December, we'll go through it. Total hours, Joel was able to get in 76 hours, 76.5, 4 citations, 3 warnings. In 24, there was no patrol. Obviously, we talked about this and I keep repeating it. Joel does get taken out of rec patrol to go back out onto regular patrol because of their staffing needs. January, there was no patrol in 2025. However, he did have a total of 6.5 hours. There was a crash and a citation with an OWI on that. So that was part of our snowmobile patrol. February of 25, Joel was able to get to the entire county. We had 55 hours, 55.5 hours on snowmobile, 3 citations. 2 were for the no trail pass, and 1 was for the prohibited alcohol from the OWI in January. We got the blood results back in February. 3 warnings, no registration, failure to provide proof of safety certificate, and operating a snowmobile without safety course. The boat patrol, 123, this is for 2025, 123.5 hours, 6 citations, 20 warnings, contacts or water safety inspections, 95. May of 25, lakes patrolled Phillips Chain, Pike Lake Chain, and Musser, 26 hours. Contacts, 27, 3 citations in May, no life jacket, no throwable PFD, personal flotation device. And again, 1 personal watercraft wake zone violation with 200 feet of the shore. 7 warnings. Those deal with failure to carry your boat certificate, allowing riding on a gunwales or deck of a boat, and then failure to properly display registration, no throwable personal flotation device, and failure to transfer boat title. June, July, no patrol occurred. August of 25, Butternut Lake Chain, Sioux Lake, Sulberg, Phillips Chain, and Musser Lake, along with Butternut Lake, 63.5 hours, 43 contacts, 2 citations. Those were for no throwable personal flotation device, 7 warnings. 4 of them were for no fire extinguisher, 3 for failure to display registration. In September, Joel was on Spirit Lake and the Phillips Chain, 13 hours. Water safety inspections were 8. 1 citation, again, no throwable personal flotation device. October of 25, Pike Lake Chain, Butternut Lake, and Phillips Chain, 20 hours, 20.5. 0 citations, 6 warnings, no fire extinguisher, 2 to fail on covering your battery in the boat, 1 no throwable, and then 1 failed to transfer registration. And then there was no patrol November or December of 25. My final one for you is the ATV patrol for 2025. 276 hours, 16 citations, and 21 warnings. January of 25, the entire county was covered. We did get about 12.5 hours on patrol. And again, patrol isn't just sitting doing paperwork. Patrol is actively going out and driving around on the trails and on the route system. March, we had a quarter hour where they had a stop on an ATV. They wrote some warnings, no citations. May of 25, the county was patrolled at 42.75 hours. There were 2 crash investigations, 2 citations. 1 was an OWI on the ATV. 1 was expired registration. 3 warnings, required headlamps, registration, and no license plate on the ATV. June was 1 citation. That was an ATV stop for being on the highway. That was a citation. July 9.25 hours of patrol, 1 crash investigation, 1 OWI. That was a citation, and 1 no rear plate on a warning. August of 25, we have 64.5 hours. The county was covered on patrol, 6 citations. There were 2 OWIs on the highway, or 2 operating on the highway. 1 prohibited blood alcohol from the July OWI. 1 operating UTV without juvenile wearing headgear, and 1 no registration. 10 warnings. They range from no license plate, not having their headlamps on, registration, having a UTV without ATV safety certificate. September, we had 25.25 hours of patrol, 2 citations, failed to obey stop sign, operating with a minor without headgear, and then 1 warning for no license plate. October, we had 84.5 hours of patrol, 1 crash investigation, 3 citations, no registration, 1 OWI. The OWI also produced a refusal for the blood draw, 3 warnings, no registration, no headlamps, no license plate. And then in November, we had 30.75 hours of patrol, no citations, no warnings, and no dedicated time in 2025 December for patrol, but they had 6.5 hours of OWI investigation. We had an OWI on the ATV. So that gives you some of the stuff that you guys have invested into the rec patrol. That's what we're doing. As you know, my kind of unwritten policy is safety first. If you hear the boat cover on the battery or the cover on the boat battery, flotation devices, things of that nature, safety is paramount as far as being out there. Try to balance citation versus warning. As you can see, there should be a nice balance between it, that we're not ticket or citation heavy. We do have to, as part of the program, write some citations, which the OWI, that's a must. You have to write that. Any questions on rec patrol?
I got one quick one. Is the rec officer participating with the DNR like last weekend and this weekend? Because it's snowmobile safety awareness or something they got going.
Yep. So Joel is working with Tom and with Sally here in Price County, also with the U.S. Ag. We have the Forest Service officer, Ryan. So we do team up and they do cooperative patrolling together, which benefits us too, because then he has someone out there with him. And we do have some safety protocols for Joel when he's out on the sled. Not only he should be checking in with us when he's out there, because he's out and maybe somewhere where it's going to be difficult to get to him, but also it helps with having someone there when you're writing a warning or citation, talking to someone.
Joel has a question?
Yeah, so first of all, I'd like to thank Bob for your information on the process for the undocumented. That was good information. Appreciate that, bringing it forward. The other one is, do you see any increased activity on Highway 13 since we've opened up that section of 13 from Harborview to Fayette Street, that they're running all the way to the UTVs up to Quick Trip. You just had some on there with operating on a state highway.
Yeah.
So I was just curious if.
Oh,
were
that was
those
not, yeah, those wouldn't be those
nothing to do with
sections.
that?
But
Okay.
I have seen a slight increase of obviously activity. I'm gonna wait until I see what the summer activity is gonna be. And now that it's signed and people are talking about it more, I think that having the presence of working with the city, if we need to work with the city and have Joel sit there for a little bit and try to educate people to not go beyond the limits that you as a county have set. We do try to educate, like the smoking ban we did in public. We did like a 6-month education. Now, again, if you have someone that doesn't have the helmet for the child, that's a must. You're going to get a citation. If you have your child and you don't have the proper headgear or eye gear, that's unacceptable because the child, you know, is little and you should have that. But there could be some citations that would come out of that, but not for violating something like that. But they're just to guide people, keep them in the route.
And the only reason I ask is because when that was done, that was a concern that people had. So, and we always talked about that we're going to reinvestigate it to see if there was an issue there or not. So that's the only reason I brought it up.
Yeah, on that last item, they go across the bridge going north, but then they got to get off by Harborview, right? They can't go to Quick Trip. And there's some people doing that?
That was just what I was asking
Oh,
because when it
okay.
went through highway, that was one of the concerns.
Ah.
And there was the initial thought that we'll see how it, you know, if it works out great,
Yeah.
but there's always the opportunity to go a different way if
Yeah.
needed.
There.
And because they're the folks that are going to see that, I was just curious if we were seeing any of that. And it's new. So like you said, Brian, getting through the summer and seeing what
Yeah.
happens, there's a good idea. Yeah.
I would just wait and see where we get as far as summer activity. You know, usually our citizens, our locals here in the community already know and they've seen it. They've looked in the paper, they talk to people, their clubs, establishments like going to the bar or something, have a drink. Yeah, they know pretty much where the boundaries are. But these are people that just come in maybe a first time, you know, so.
Just another comment. There's more hours with the rec officer than I expected because I know you with shortages of staffing and everything. I know he wasn't able
So-
to do as much rec. He had to do other stuff.
Yeah.
So I was really impressed with the number of hours.
No, and I appreciate that. And that's why I tried to, like I said, we all work together, believe it or not. You know, Bob has put his vest on now. I have assigned him to road duty a couple times to help out the lieutenants. And again, you have an individual that's sworn, certified, and can actually go out and actually do the work. So the chief deputy has got the ability to do that. So he has to go out every so often and work the road. And he has come in on the weekends at night too. And the lieutenants are working a little longer till 3 a.m. So again, trying to work with HR, our human resources, trying to gain where we can get some people and trying to always evolve. It's really becoming a struggle to get someone in that would fit our community needs, all Price County.
And that's where I was going to go back to that staffing where we talk about, we have one on FMLA or going to be, we have one vacancy, we have one out in the military. We also have days off. So I want to assure everybody we're covering the basic, right? That's the goal, is like those patrol officers are to make sure we have coverage. What the humane officer, the canine unit, the rec officer, our lieutenants, chief deputy, what they are is to make sure we hit the basic, but then it does affect the number of rec hours you can have, the number of canine above and beyond. Like they do additional stuff that would go to the school or do training, whatever. They're doing the patrol, they're backfilling. So we're always covering the base.
Mhm.
What it affects is the extra, the stuff that we know needs to be there. You guys would like to see the rec officer do more hours, but that's where we reduce the hours to backfill until we have those individuals back from FMLA or back from military. And then you see the increase in activity at the rec officer or the increase of activity for whoever it might be. We have a couple different appointments that get affected during these times.
So if that answers some of your questions, Bob, you know, I know you guys want to know what's going on. I appreciate the support that I get from you guys as far as the Kearney board. And that's why we try to do what we try and go from there. The only last thing that I wanted to talk about recently, the chief deputy, and again, to be in law enforcement, to be a chief deputy, you got to understand civil process. And I've been working with Bob for a number of years on civil process. We had a execution of judgment that was, I was court ordered to seize property, and that now I have to put it up for sale under a judgment. And there is a sale going on right now in Bennett, that, we have to sell this property to satisfy, the court order. So, again, these are complex things. We have equipment that we have to bring down to our facility, and we have to store it over by our impound lot. Recently, this most recent judgment, we did take, I believe a truck, a semi. We took a heavy duty, truck. We've got some pickup trucks. We have some other equipment. The impound lot has been getting full. Every so often, Bob does then take paperwork and we try to get rid of the abandoned vehicles based on our ordinance. That goes up for silent bids and auction, and the Office of Administration and County Clerk deal with that. But this is one that we have to deal with, and working with Meredith's office doing the posting, but our impound lot is full. So now we've put overfill and we've asked the city to allow us to put in there. Our costs do get recouped from the sale. We do get costs paid back through the process. My comment, I did talk with Nicholas a little bit about talking about some of the Mintle property and maybe expanding something up there for impound, you know, and just planting the seed again for the future when we have one of these executions. When you have to seize property, which again, we take very seriously because it's got to be court order. We talk to legal counsel, we follow the statutes, and we do what we're required to do. But we have to hold the property. And so at some point, I would like to consider looking at the Mintle property, looking at possibly putting power, lights, cameras, things that would protect us and allow us to have a space to put this property and keep it protected through the course of these court proceedings. Yes, it would have to be fenced. It would have to be, you know, so people can't come. It's county property. They're not allowed. I'm assuming highway is the one that controls that property up there, or airport does.
Yeah.
So
but-
they, you know, people just can't go on it.
Yeah, one of the issues would be that consistent camera
Yeah.
working. You know, it's, being that far away, it's tough to always be consistent, and it has to be watched, not 24/7, but we have to have a reliable system to protect that impound lot. So those are the things we're looking into with IT and what it would look like, power bringing in, so you'd have lighting and
Is there any additional room by the salt shed? You probably looked at that already.
it's
highway
pretty
is
tight
so-
up
It's
there.
pretty tight in there. That's
'Cause
why. I
well, I'm
bring up-
just looking at that because it's already got power and cameras.
Yeah. And it is tight in there. And again, we'd want something big enough where if we do have to bring in a semi and we do have to sell that, or we need someone to bring a semi in to take property out, we want to be able to do that without causing any other, like to the salt shed or any property damage there. But again, these executions we've had a couple of these, but this all of a sudden now we have a need, and hopefully we can get some of these cars out. We can get this property, the sale done. It's posted now in the paper, or it should be. It's online right now. So these are some of the things in areas that are high risk, low. We don't do it that often because, you know, we have to get a bond. We get protect the county, the taxpayers, things of that nature. And Bob does a very nice job. And
So I believe we had to do it in stages due to the weather and the availability of the equipment on the property in which we were seizing it from. So I believe we took the last piece of property last week. It was, per the way the statute reads, we have to post this stuff for 21 days consecutive before the auction is allowed to happen. So that's where, you know, with this, that's, you know, when we have these execution against judgment, you know, you're looking at a 30 to 60 day turnaround for that equipment that we're taking. It is the abandoned vehicles and vehicles that were taken, especially taken as part of like a fatal car accident, that especially the ones that were taken as part of a fatal car accident, that process, especially if there's a criminal case associated to it, that we're looking at 2-3 years of having those vehicles in our impound. And the one thing that I would request, and the sheriff and I have spoke, is that if we do look at an additional impound, is to design it in which, we can plow through in the wintertime. The way we're set up right now, that impound is so small, there's so much in there that a lot of times we'll have maintenance come over and they'll backblade because they're not able to plow through, they'll backblade. So it would be nice if you had, a center road that you could put the cars off on the side and we just plow through.
Does all the money from the auction come back to our coffers?
It's supposed to, yes. The county gets paid first. So that's part of the statute. We have to track our time. So Robert keeps the track of his time and moving forward, mileage time, whatever we have costs into it, we have to present. And then we take the monies that we get and that goes back to the general fund. So it's an in and out. To give you some history, where NTC was our first storage area. Mike Johnson had a building up there. It was just a pole building. Then the county at some point decided, and I think it was the latter 90s, that they put the building behind and what we have now is storage buildings where we keep, like Bob said, cars for evidence. And the impound lot was at one point worked. Now we have been obviously seeing more abandoned vehicles. We have other vehicles that we're dealing with. And during my time, we've had a couple executions of property as far as seizing and taking property by court order. If you would, and just on last thing for me, the sign in front of the building, I'm just getting, the sign says 1894. The first jail was 1880. It burned down in 1894 from the fire. The county built the jail over in the north parking lot where the livery stables used to be. There's a picture of it. That was 1894 to 1975. And that was the original bricks, or I guess the stone of that building when Paul and Andy and all the sheriffs and their family lived in that building. So it does indicate 1894. And the building currently does say the same as the courthouse. Courthouse is 1966. The jail is 1975, 76. So don't fret about that. We got that squared up. Any questions, comments, concerns? But I'm just letting you know that that's a really old piece of concrete, whatever. And then, yeah, you guys have any other questions? This is your kick at the cat. You want?
I just have a question on that 13 and 111 accident with the two fatalities. What is the truck driver facing? I believe it was second-degree reckless homicide he was charged with.
Yeah.
What is he up against?
Let me pull up the CCAP record so I
Well, we'll pull up CCAP. It's already been filed with the clerk, with the courts. And then that's where Nick was talking about a particular case that the county, the Attorney General's office. Jane Doe? Okay. There were the two charges of the reckless, and then there was the, I guess, injury, reckless injury. And I just have to say also that when someone does approach the chief deputy and ask him a question when he's thinking about civil process, he does get a few moments to at least look up something before there's judgment put upon him as to the level of knowledge of a certain situation. I don't know how someone can be as ignorant to ask that or say that, but the chief deputy is very knowledgeable, and I have full faith in him as to what his abilities are, or
But
when put him in
apparently I
there.
can't spell a last name, so I'm struggling to pull up the record, but I do believe it was a single count of reckless homicide, as well as or two counts of reckless homicide, and then a single count of injury. Yeah, the injury for the victim that did survive. So that is now going through our court process. I believe that information or that complaint was issued last month, the beginning of last month.
So you got pictures of
Yeah, actually, and it was really nice. One of our corrections officers is really into coding and into computers, which again helps us because it frees TJ, it frees Melissa, Nick's office, Meredith's office, whatever. And he was able to get it figured out, and we were able to get the photos. It does take a little bit of time, but the photos are back up. And I said that last time, but it takes a little bit, but we got the pictures back up. So, any questions, comments, concerns? I know it was a
My
little,
question was on the charges brought up against that individual. What is the,
20 years, I mean, maximum, you know, you're looking at 50 years max.
oh my gosh.
So, I mean, there's those, yeah. But the Attorney General's office is assisting with the prosecution on that case.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Anything else for your elected officials? Go ahead, Bob. I know you couldn't stop.
No, before you run.
Oh, I'm running
we're
away
gonna
from
do-
you?
We're going to do vouchers, and I just have a couple questions on some of the vouchers. I
Yeah.
figured I'd carry my Health Human Services role over to law enforcement because of the young
I,
lady.
you know,
comment.
Carol McLaughlin did the same thing. I really appreciate that you want to do
Good,
this.
see, that's why I learned it, I think, from Carol.
I did.
Anyway, there's one here for Belk. She was a nice. What? Oh, jeez. Belco vehicle, they
They,
outfit the cars or something?
Yeah.
Where are they located?
that's down in Portage.
Oh, okay.
So we used to do Northway Communication. They would outfit and we'd bring the equipment. They would put in. They've since said they will no longer do that. That was a couple of years ago. This is an outfit that we take a car to, and they can get it done quickly because they have 4 or 5 representatives just hammer the equipment into the vehicle, get it in quickly. I'm not sure.
I think that's what
State
happened.
bid.
They were Fidelco or whatever.
I'm not sure about that, Nick. I
I
can
know
look.
several people go there. I thought it was
There's
like
all the agencies. I mean, I think Park Falls uses them. I'm not sure if Phillips does, but I know Park Falls PD, I believe, does.
Okay, then there was the Central Price County Ambulance, which I understand what that is, but there are like 3 things in there for $500 and some for transporting prisoners?
Yeah, if we have a medical episode up in the jail, we call the ambulance. They take them up to Flambeau Hospital.
Oh, so you have quite a bit of that then, huh?
Well, I mean, we do, if someone says they have chest pain, we contact medical immediately. And the nurse or doctor on the call will indicate that, you know, the symptoms, we give them the symptoms, yeah, run that person up, get them checked out.
Yeah, okay. And then there's Onsolve Intermed Holding Company?
I'd have to see that one.
Okay,
Does that sound familiar?
you
to
can get
Bob?
back to me on that.
If you
I
give
don't
me,
know,
give me
it's-
the information.
It's in there. I think it's,
While they're looking at that, who is Donald Miller?
Don Miller is the owner of the Phillips Cafe. He's the one that does the meals for upstairs in the jail.
Oh, okay.
Again, it's the only show in town. Remember, we
Right,
used to go, yeah, we used to
He
go to
does
Pleasant View
senior.
Nursing Home.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't find, we tried to look at the schools, we always try to look for cost savings somewhere. And I remember Gabe Lind, our one jail administrator, talked to the schools. I think it was Tara Gassman we talked to. And we weren't able to utilize the schools because we need someone 7 days
Summers.
a week.
It was, the schools were interested in it, but the problem is the summers.
Yeah.
I mean, weekends were, but like during the school year, it probably would have worked. During the summer, they have reduced,
Okay.
no staff. so.
My question was, because we keep paying him quite a bit of money, so
Yeah,
that,
the food
He also
services
does-
are expensive now.
I'm
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, he also does our senior meal sites
Yeah,
too.
be-
So it's the bit across the
I'd say
board.
between the jail and the senior meal site, he does does a lot of meals.
Oh, Code Red. Okay, was that the weather thing? Was that the weather alert one or just?
Yeah,
Code Red?
I,
Code Red,
Code Red.
okay. Did he explain
Yeah,
it?
yeah,
Okay.
it actually was sitting there. I just wasn't sure what that was. And then the last one was Lad Tech
That's our scheduler.
Okay,
That's our
that's a
online scheduler.
scheduling
For
system.
deputy, yeah. So if there's someone calls in sick, Bob can then grab it real quick, put it out to the deputies or to whoever, if we got a sick call out like that.
Okay.
And it's a scheduler where deputies can go online, check their schedule. We put we fill the schedule up with training courts. It's used for everything.
Okay, that's your, okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, we've exhausted that. And I think the vouchers have been around. They're all signed. What's your pleasure on the vouchers?
Let's second that motion.
Motion by Warco, second by Baratka. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Date of next meeting, March 5th. Does anybody have a problem if we need a meeting to change the date? I'll be out of town that first week of March.
If you don't mind me interjecting, Larry, if you want us to work on, like, Nick and I working on the ordinance, could you think about April then? I think that with everyone still running for office, I don't know if the committee's gonna, would you change the committee? When do you change the committee? Not until May, right?
So the process would be April, the first board meeting. They'd all be sworn in. We'd pick the highway. Well, you'd pick your chair, your vice chair, your highway, and your executive. They would then do some orientation stuff, but then that meeting is done a week later. So during that week period, the board chair, whoever it may be, would establish what the committees are. When we come back to a full board meeting the following week in April, so the end of April, we would actually gavel in or whatever, create a meeting for each one of them. So law enforcement would be established by the chair because they would accept the committees. You'd know the 5 members. Those 5 members would then elect their chair, and then they'd be able to have a May meeting.
So April, if we we could discuss that ordinance at that point, if that's all right
Okay,
with you.
that would be fine.
Yeah, and then
The date be Meredith for the April meeting,
April 2nd.
April 2nd.
Can we change that? Push it to the 9th?
there would be other meetings on that date.
Huh?
There's
No,
already,
there's nothing.
I don't
That's
have
open.
anything.
On this calendar, I agree with
oh,
Can we, I'm having eye surgery on the 2nd, so I'd like to be here.
April, what did you say, 9th?
Right, because executive could have been the 9th, but it's actually the 16th. So 9th is open.
Yeah, that would be fine.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
April 9th, you're welcome. Maybe you can buy lunch for that.
Well, he would have said it if you didn't, so.
Yeah, no March meeting
No March meeting? Okay.
unless something comes up that we would need one.
I would reach out to you, Larry, at that point. If there's something that comes up, Nick and I would reach out to you at some point and we'd discuss it.
That's fine. Yep. This committee will still be standing committee.
Yeah, that's why I was bringing it up, just because you guys have the knowledge now of what we're discussing today versus what maybe transpires in May.
Okay. If there's no more business, I will adjourn the meeting. It was an informative meeting. Thank you.